Ladies and guys who are too enmeshed with their goddamn girlfriends, Andy here. This is the Kill You're in a Loser show. Let's fucking go. I'm joined with my guest, my co-host, my slut, my debutante, my girlfriend, my mistress, my homie, my bitch, my OG, my nigger. I have an N pass. I have a black friend, and he said that I could say that on camera, so that's fine. My nigger. How are you, Mrs. Imogen?
I'm good. I probably actually look like some of those things, so for...
That's not cool, what you just said about the N-word. That's not cool. That you think you look like an... That's not... I wouldn't use it like that. When I use it, it's like in the way that black people use it, which I think is like in a very loving way. Like, what up, my niggers? Like, stuff like that. Anyway, what are we going to talk about today? Let me pull my little notes up. You haven't come on camera for quite a while. So today we're going to talk about guys who are too enmeshed or they don't have enough space in a relationship. But first, why haven't you come on camera? You have a little announcement to tell people, don't you? Something big happened. You're pregnant.
Yes, I'm pregnant.
Sure. So, we'll just leave that there. I'm actually curious to see if anyone has any comments to say about that, about you being pregnant, or we'll just leave that there. We won't comment any further. So, let's get into it. People are too enmeshed. What do we mean by enmeshed? The bits are stuck together.
I mean, that's sex, but people whose lives, or if you're with a girl and you do everything together, all of your friends are the same, all of your hobbies are the same, you don't necessarily have any parts of your life that are separate, or very little.
Yeah, and I usually see this, obviously I coach guys, I don't really coach any women. I see this a lot from the male point of view, where guys are they've fallen in love, they're too stuck with a girl, and sometimes it's not even one girl, it's like they just haven't built their own life, and they're using women to fill that void. But we're going to talk a little more about like an actual relationship, because this is something that like you recently moved out. It's something that we've wanted to do for a while. I always want my own space. I've always wanted to have my own apartment. I've always had my own apartment, I should say. It's only really recently, since we moved to this new city, in order to make it easier financially, we moved together. We said we'll move in together temporarily, and then eventually we'll move into separate places. So how has that been for you? You've only been out of your apartment for or out of this apartment into your own place for like a week now? 2 weeks? How's that been?
Yeah, it's been good. I think there's definitely something to be said about having my own space and being able to do my own thing. It's just that I think we've said the time that we spend together feels a lot more close because it's time better spent. It's not just time spent in each other's vicinity.
Yeah, and if you're listening to this and you're in a relationship, you live with a woman, or you're thinking about living with a woman, we're not necessarily saying like, oh, you can't live with a woman. I personally have found I can't. Like maybe temporarily I can. Like I can if we go on a vacation or something, sure. Or if we're going to stay together for live in a place for 3 months, maybe I can then. But generally speaking, I need my own space. That's something I figured out. We're not saying that as a prescription to every single guy listening. Some of you can live together. Some of you are married. Some of you, are living with a woman. You have been for years. It works for you. Great, fine. This is more like an advocation of that. That's just one facet of having your own space. And that's the issue that we're going to talk about today. Like a lot of guys just don't have their own hobbies, or they will get them too enmeshed with a woman. They won't have their own friends. Sometimes you see this cliche all the time. Guys will just stop hanging out with their friends. They won't have their own schedule. They won't be busy. They're basically stuck with their girlfriend too much. And whilst at first that seems nice, because it's like we love each other or we like each other. We love spending time together. If you keep that up for long enough, it means that you are there for each other's bad moments as well. And yes, that's part of life. That's part of a relationship. But if you're with each other 24/7, you're going to have to hang out with each other when you're grumpy, when you're not in a good mood, when you're being a bit of a dick, when you just don't feel like being around someone else. That's why you need your own space. That's why you need your own life, your own hobbies, so that in those moments you can kind of have a break from each other. Like if you just had to hang out with one friend for the rest of your life, 24/7, you would start to piss each other off.
Yeah, and I think this advice is generally, I guess specifically for the moving out part, but specifically for people who feel like they need that space. But I mean, I've even had this where I've told people that we're moving to separate apartments and people ask, oh, are you okay? Is like everything fine? Because I know the norm is that you move in together and you live together and that's the way it goes. But I think it's almost like a permission thing that it's fine if you don't live together. That doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with your relationship. It's just that this might be something that would work better for you.
And again, let's move away from living separately, because that's such a small, there will be, I suspect, not a lot of guys that will listen to this and go, yeah, I resonate with that. I want to have my own apartment. I want to have my own space. I don't want to live with a woman. I think most guys want to live with a woman. So let's move away from that. Again, that's just one facet of the greater whole that we're talking about here, which is having your own independence, having your own life. That's why I did a coaching call with a guy yesterday. And part of what we talked about was, I said, mate, you got to like be a whole person by yourself. Like you have to build up your own independence, your own, because he came out of a relationship and stuff. And I said, you have to figure out how to be you. You have to be you by yourself. You have to have your own hobbies, your own friends, your own schedule, your own shit that you like to do. And then a woman gets to add to that. Like a woman is a nice cherry on top, or she's someone that you can share that shit with. And you in particular, when we first moved here, you didn't have any friends, hobbies, stuff that you were doing. And you started feeling a little like reliant on me for like entertainment, emotional security, reassurance, validation. And at some point that can start to get too much for the person that you're asking that from. Like I can't give you infinite validation. I can't give you infinite reassurance. I can't give you infinite entertainment. I have like shit to do. I have my own stuff to do. And so that's why we talk about having your own life.
Yeah, because to clarify, like when we moved, obviously this is a brand new city. I didn't know anybody. So I kind of had to, it was a very, like, I don't know the word. It was a very thought out decision where I intentionally threw myself into lots of different activities and social groups as soon as we moved here, because I was aware of the fact that because I didn't have anybody here, there was going to be that feeling. So I needed to try and build something for myself as soon as possible. So I felt like I could have my own life.
Yeah, and in terms of like what you did to make friends, I've talked about this before. You went on Bumble and started making friends. There's like a friendship, as in female friends. There's a friends section of Bumble. If you guys haven't used it, like go and try it. You find male friends or female friends, whatever gender you are. Meetup.com. I talk about Meetup all the fucking time. Great place to go to social events, sporting events, as in like playing sport. You know, basically anything you could ever think of that's social. There will be an event or a group on Meetup that you can go and do that. So it's the best way to make friends, like stuff that you wouldn't even think of. You know, I'll go to karaoke. I'll go to a philosophy group. I'll go to a book club. I'll go hiking. Like all that shit's on there. I talk about Meetup all the time. It's fucking free. It's like a social network website basically. And you started like building up your schedule. You started going to like pole dancing, which is something that you wanted to do. You know, every woman who goes says, I'm doing it for the exercise. It's like, you're doing it to fucking be a little...
I mean, partly, yeah.
Rock climbing, gym, hanging out with your friends. Like those are pretty much, you do those things every fucking day now. And like, how has your mental health, I'm going to bias this. How has your mental health improved since starting to do that?
Because I'm definitely somebody that needs to be very like active and busy and doing a lot of things. It just feels a million times better. I think I've had weeks where I've said like, I don't feel good. I just feel a bit depressed and shitty. And then I will have a look back at that and we'll realize that I didn't do any, like I didn't meet anybody. I didn't go anywhere this week. I just stayed at home and worked and that was about it. And that's when I feel like depressed.
And I see that a lot. Obviously, I mainly see the male side of things because I'm coaching guys. And all the guys on my forums are guys and my audience are guys. There are so many guys that start getting depressed and I'll say, well, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing in your day to day? Walk me through a typical week. And it's like, well, a bit of video games, a little bit of this, you know, maybe I'll cook some food. And I'll be like, well, what about friends? Are you hanging out with your friends? Yeah, maybe sometimes. Okay, well, do you have any hobbies? Not really. Are you socializing? Not really. Are you going out to meet new people? Not really. Are you going outside to talk to women every day? Because that's a social thing as well. Like that is socializing. You are literally socializing if you hit on women. Not really. Are you on Tinder? Like, are you meeting up for dates? Because that's socializing. I used that for socializing when I was, 5 years ago when I was coming to all this stuff. No, I'm not doing that either. So it's like, well, you're not doing anything. Like, why would you not be depressed? Depression is literally stagnation. I'm not doing anything. I have nothing to strive for. I have no goals. Like, I'm stuck. I'm not moving forward. As soon as you put a mission or a goal or something to be working on, or even just daily habits and daily stuff, daily to-do lists that you work through, depression, I'm not going to say it immediately dissolves, but it sort of goes into the background from time to time. It'll still come to the forefront. You'll still remember, yeah, I'm fucking depressed. But like, it can go into the background while you're keeping busy. And it's just in the back of your mind, yeah, I'm still depressed, but let me focus on what I'm doing right now. And so distraction really is the key here.
Yeah, and I will say, because I think we've got to live, I will say that when you are living with somebody, all of a sudden, when they're with you all of the time, that becomes part of your routine. So I think it becomes a lot easier to fall into that depressed state of not doing anything because you're just coexisting with another person. But it's a very easy excuse because you're like, no, I'm spending time with my partner, my girlfriend, my boyfriend. Like, I'm doing something, when in reality you're just doing not a whole lot, and another person is there with you also doing not a whole lot.
Yeah, and there's also, like, you get a nice, like a buffer almost against, like, full-on depression when you're in a relationship. What do I mean by that? I mean, when you have a partner or a girl that you're seeing or a guy that you're seeing, whatever, that person makes you feel better when you're having a low moment. If you're having a bad day, just having a fucking cuddle with your girlfriend makes you feel better. And so I've had this myself before. You definitely had this. You can get into this like bad spot where there are issues with your life, or there are things that you want to work on, but you're not working on them. You're kind of like in a rut, so to speak, but you never actually fall into that rut because you have your partner there. And every time you start feeling a little bad, they give you a cuddle, they watch a movie with you, you have sex, you chill, you hang out together. It feels good in that moment. But you can't shake this feeling in the back of your head that, like, I'm being really complacent. I'm definitely destined for greater than this. Like, I love my partner a bit. I love you to bits, obviously. But, like, my life can't just be me sitting around cuddling you and watching movies and not doing anything.
Yeah, and I mean, sometimes it's not even... I think it's very easy for it to not be such an aware thought. It's just like... Or it's almost like something is slightly wrong. Like, something doesn't feel very good. And...
Complacency.
Yeah, and you might not even know that you're being complacent because you'll give your partner like a hug or you'll have sex and be like, this feels nice. And then you'll like in the background just still feel quietly like dissatisfied and unhappy.
Yeah, I see this with a ton of guys. Again, it's like they're not building anything themselves and they're with their partner, and they'll come to me, I've coached quite a few guys in relationships, and they'll come to me and say like, I just feel like, I don't know, it's just like everything's like okay. And like, I don't think there's a problem. And it's like, that's the problem. The fact that you're saying it's only okay, that you're not saying like, holy shit, I'm so glad I'm with this person. Like, I'm building my own kick-ass life and they get to share it with me. They're helping me go from like, here to the next level. Like I'm so grateful I have this person. If you're coming to me and saying, or if you're sitting there listening to this and saying like, yeah, my relationship is like, it's pretty good. Like, that's the answer. That's the medium is the message. If you're not jumping out of your seat like fucking Tom Cruise, this is an old meme. Tom Cruise, with Katie Holmes from like fucking 15 years ago, where he jumps on Oprah's couch and he's like, I'm in love, I'm in love, I'm in love. Like, everyone memes on that. You haven't seen that. You're too young for that. You're younger than that meme. You're only 12 years old. I'm going to jail for that. Everybody, most of you should know what that meme is. Everybody memed on him, but like, the point is he was fucking passionate. And yeah, they later got divorced. Who gives a fuck about that? But like, in that moment, he was fucking passionate. He was fucking excited to be with her. She's obviously adding to his life. He's obviously someone that has his own life, his own shit. He's got like Scientology, fucking 50 million movies that he's made, a million fucking Rolls Royces and Rolexes, and I'm sure he has a fuck ton of money. He's got his own shit going on, and then the other person adds. And that's just, we've used him as a random example. But the point here is like, you want to be excited about your partner. You don't want to just be like, yeah, my partner, it's pretty good. It's like, yeah, things are good. So a big part of that is that you are in an enmeshed relationship. You haven't built your own shit. And so you're sort of sitting there existing. What you want to be doing is you have your own life and your own shit that you're working on, your own goals that you're working on, your own missions, like outside of her. And then you share those with her. And she ideally has her own shit that she's working on. We talk about this all the time. I see a lot of, I think guys, I think inherently know that they, I'm going to use air quotes here, should be working on something, air quotes, should. We kind of know that we're supposed to be doing stuff. We're supposed to have missions. We're supposed to have goals. We're supposed to be working. We're supposed to be this. We're supposed to be the breadwinners. We kind of know that shit. I think women don't get brought up, or no one kind of gives them the memo of like, you're going to get depressed if you just exist. And so I see women far more likely, guys do this with video games, sure, but women far more likely to just kind of exist, usually by self-medicating with like social media validation, a little bit of sex, but not really. More like just guys telling them they're cute on social media and Tinder and shit. And like you get to this point where you're just, not you personally, because you have goals, but like a lot of girls just don't get told like, hey, you want to be working on some fucking goals. Like you want to have your own life. And so they sort of get into this pattern of like, I'm just waiting for the relationship. I'm just waiting for the next relationship. They'll get into a relationship. We see this all the time. And they'll be in a relationship and they're kind of just like, well, this is nice. Now I'm in a relationship. And it's like, you're not doing anything. You're not building any independence. And so guys listening to this, girls listening to this, first of all, go and get some fucking goals. Just follow everything I talk about in my podcast. All the same self-improvement advice for men applies to you too. Just like obviously change the genders. And you probably don't want to go out and get laid a ton, but like everything else applies. Gym, fitness, health, money for sure, friends, social stuff, hobbies, like all that shit applies. Mental health, philosophy, learning stoicism, learning a lot of masculine values will help. Learning assertiveness for women, abso-fucking-lutely. Go and learn all that. Most girls need to read No More Mr. Nice Guy. And When I Say No, I Feel Guilty. Most women would fucking benefit from those books. So all the self-improvement advice that I give, you can't afford the luxury of a negative thought, which is another book that I recommend. Every woman should read that. All that shit applies. But guys listening to this, if you meet a woman, if you start getting into a relationship with a woman, your mission is to push her and encourage her to work on her own goals. Like, let some of that self-improvement energy that you have rub off on her. Let her get inspired by you. Actively encourage her and push her and say, like, what do you care about? What stuff do you want to work on? What would be cool to have? That's the way that I normally phrase that question, rather than like, what are your goals? Because some people say like, I don't know. So you say like, okay, think about what would be a cool thing to have. What shit would just be cool? What would be cool? And some women will say like, do you know, I've always thought it would be cool to run my own art business. That would be cool. And you're like, sweet, that's your fucking goal. That's what you got to work on. You just told me that was cool. That's what you got to get. Like it might take you a couple of years, but let's work towards that. So you want to be encouraging the women that you date abso-fucking-lutely to have their own goals, because what will happen if you don't is they will drag you down. It is so easy to get complacent in a relationship. It's not like the red pill talk about this all the time. And it's one of the things I absolutely fundamentally fucking agree with them on, that it is very easy to, they call it like becoming a beta male. I don't like that terminology, but basically becoming complacent in a relationship. And that they say it as like the woman will drag you down and make you complacent. No. A woman who doesn't have goals will, or you could say any person who doesn't have goals will drag you into complacency, because they need you. They don't have anything else to occupy their time. They don't have hobbies or goals or missions or friends, or, okay, they have friends, but like they don't have something that they're working on. And so it's very easy to say like, in those moments of neediness, please honey, can you come here and give me a cuddle? That's what the red pill is referring to when they say, you know, women will make you beta. It's more that a woman who doesn't have goals will drag you down with her, and you'll both get dragged down. It's a slow process. You won't see it coming. After a year, you'll just be like, shit, why do I not care about my goals as much? Like, why do I come to Andy and say things are good, but like something's missing, as you said?
Yeah, I think that ultimately, and it's an even worse case if neither of you are doing much of anything, because that's when it's really bad, because you're just both using each other all of the time to get that dopamine hit rather than using other things. So I think, like you said, just going away, doing your own thing, because I think it's also really helpful. Like if one person's having a shitty day, but you always rely on that person to feel good, then you're going to feel like shit as well, and everyone's just going to have a bad time. But if you can go away and be like, okay, I'm going to go see my friends, or I'm going to go to the gym, or I'm going to do one of my various hobbies, then it's something that you can look forward to that's completely separate from the other person.
It's like you have to, it's the old cliche, guys, but this cliche gets said for a reason. You have to be a whole person. before you add another person to the mix. You can't be half a person. You can't be incomplete. And then I'm going to use this person. You see this shit in Hollywood and movies. It's the worst lie ever told. The Red Pill does a good job of shitting on this lie where they talk about like one-itis and the one. And, you know, I'm going to go and find my soulmate and they're going to complete me. What the fuck is this complete me shit? Yes, intimacy, relationships are a need for a lot of us. Definitely for me, maybe for all of us. Maybe we all need human connection. We all need a relationship. Sure, fine. But you can't be a thirsty man in the desert going like, I have to find my water bottle. I have to find water. I need my oasis. Oh my God, there she is. The first woman that's like nice to me or something. I'm going to latch onto her and use her and she'll complete me. It's like you should be a whole person who wants to add a woman to the mix. It's like the cherry on top of the cake. Same with women. You need to be a whole fucking person. I think women suffer from this way more because they get sold this lie even more than men do. Like, a man will complete you. Like, you know, you got to have this Hollywood, like, princess and prince shit. Like, yes, intimacy is amazing. Yes, a relationship. Obviously, we're in a fucking relationship, right? I'm going to tell you your relationships are really fucking nice. But you have to be your own person, and she has to be her own person too. Now, if you're in a relationship and you're listening to this and you resonate with some of what we've said and you think, you know, fuck, I think I'm too enmeshed, or we need each other too much, or it does feel complacent, you're right, or I feel like there's nothing wrong, but it's also not amazing. It's like this weird point where everything's okay, but like we're not striving for anything greater. You can change it. You and I have changed it. Like, that's something since we moved here. You didn't have any hobbies or any friends or any of that sort of stuff, but you have to jump on top of it. If both of you are complacent, you need to go off separately and you need to make friends, hobbies, go to meetup.com, join a bunch of groups, start reaching out, start doing hobbies, start doing, you know, making other friends and shit like that. If only one of you is, then the other one needs to encourage that person and say like, you know, I want you to have your own life like I do. Like, what stuff is important to you? What stuff would be cool to have? Like, what's some stuff? Go daydream. Go sit in a park and look up at the clouds and think about like, what shit have I always wanted, but I never thought I was allowed to have? And everyone has answers to those questions. Everybody has like 50 things that they've always wanted that they thought, yeah, but that's like a pipe dream. Like you, an art business. When you first came to me, you offhandedly mentioned like, I've always loved art, and I was like, oh, okay, she likes art. And then I saw some of your shit, and I was like, holy fuck, why is she this good at art? Like, why is she this ridiculously good at art, but she's not an artist? And you just hadn't given yourself permission to do art. And so sometimes people will have this shit buried inside them. Hobbies, dreams, goals, especially women. Women seem like way more, like they suppress that shit for some reason. I guess it's to be more agreeable and to not like stand out, and girls are generally speaking more rejection resistant or adverse to rejection. They don't like rejection more than guys. So I think a lot of women don't give themselves permission to chase their goals because they're like, I might fail. And it's like, yeah, you are going to fail. I'll tell you that right now. How many times have you failed with your art and shit like that? Anything you've worked on?
Yeah, quite a lot. But I think that's what makes it, it's kind of what makes life fulfilling. It's having those things to work for and that struggle. Because I think the whole issue with being enmeshed is that it's very okay, and that's why you keep doing it. Mm-hmm. But that's also why it's not fulfilling, because it's just this like stagnation. You're kind of going through life flatlining. Yeah,
you're existing, and there's nothing wrong. And what we mean here is we're talking specifically, when we say enmeshed relationship, it means like two people that are like meshed together and reliant on each other, and without each other they would fucking like die or something, and they need each other for validation. It's like the typical relationship. Most people get into an enmeshed relationship, they just can't see it. And we're not saying you have to be like two distant people. We're not even advocating, I know at the start we talked about living in separate apartments. That's just us personally, right? We're not saying that you guys have to do that. But the default seems to be an enmeshed relationship where you need each other for validation every time you're sad, like all that kind of stuff. And one thing that I saw from my parents they don't have a perfect relationship by any means, but they've done a lot of things right. And so I've been able to see that template and learn from it. And obviously I've made a million mistakes in my own relationships. My first two relationships were abusive as fuck. For like 8 years, I stayed far longer than I should have. I cheated a million times. The girls were abusive and I was abusive back. Violent at times. They said horrible shit to me. I said it's just like fucking toxic. Like I would not recommend anyone have anything even 1% as bad as that shit. But like, I made mistakes. But one thing I saw was that my parents had their own separate lives. My dad has his own friends. My mum has her own friends. They work different jobs, obviously. They go off and do different hobbies. My dad loves making surfboards, going surfing, fixing up motorbikes, taking the car apart and fixing it again, doing home renovation shit. He tiled like he helped. I told you this. They renovated the house and built like double the house, basically. They built a second house, or not a second house, but like another bedroom, another bathroom, another living room, another veranda and like area onto the back of the house. And my dad did half of that. He hired one builder and he did he helped that builder. Like the two of them just did it. My dad's like massively into projects like that. And then my mum will go off with their friends and have brunch and shit like that. Like women fucking seem obsessed with coffees and, you know, go on fucking vacations with their friends and shit like that. And like, what are you going to say about brunch?
You only don't like brunch because you don't like eggs.
Eggs are disgusting. And what is more disgusting is brunch, right? Just either have breakfast, have lunch. We have two words for those things. If you're going to have a brunch, just call it a late breakfast or an early lunch. We'll call it an early breakfast. Lunch starts at 12. So it's a late breakfast, sorry. All right, there's no brunch. Sorry to tell you, like avocados, you can't eat them on toast. That's disgusting. Eggs are fucking like children's food. What are you guys doing? Cancel brunch. I see too many women at brunch thinking like brunch is everything. Brunch is everything. It's like, have you tried, I don't know, hitting the gym? Have you tried going outside and talking to girls? What?
First of all, a lot of people get brunch after the gym. And nobody's saying brunch is everything. I'm saying brunch is nice. And you're shitting all over
Brunch is disgusting. Cancel that discussion. I don't want to hear the word brunch. Brunch is probably going to get me like cancelled on YouTube. I'm probably going to get my account deleted for even mentioning brunch because it is an atrocity. Crime against humanity. And I sometimes think it's like the holy war that women are waging on men. It's like they're slowly encroaching onto the territory of lunch. They're getting closer and closer, etching closer and closer towards lunch. And at some point, men will wake up and say, there's no lunch anymore. Like, I'm trying to have a sandwich or a fucking hamburger or whatever lunch food, maybe a fucking lunchtime beer. If you're an alcoholic, shout outs to all the alcoholics out there. I'm like 6 months sober at this point. So men will wake up and lunch will be gone and women will be to blame. And women will all like high five themselves with their perfectly manicured fingernails and their fucking like handbag dogs, handbag chihuahuas, and their little fucking yoga pants, Lululemon fucking pants, and spandex shirts and shit. And they'll all be like, we won, women. This is like feminism won. Like we cancelled lunch because we pushed brunch forward. It's like a fucking Trojan horse that you think is a good thing. You're like, wow, brunch, that's cool. I get to have another meal, like a fucking fat obese piece of shit. Lunch is like brunch is coming, guys. You need to understand this whole podcast, if you take one thing away from it, I want you to understand that brunch is a holy war that women are waging on men. I'm going to post this on the Red Pill. Those guys will they will probably be on board with this and they will probably like absolutely help me fight this war. Guys, we need to like shut down brunch. So let's move on. Brunch is cancelled. I hope you all get the memo. Shout outs to leave a comment below anyone who agrees with me that brunch is like a fucking affront to the nutritional. It shouldn't exist. It's disgusting. It should not exist. Avocados, eggs, please. Bitch, please. That's like children's food. So, where the fuck were we? You need some space, basically. Agree.
Agreed. Not on the
So you agree with the brunch stuff. Cool. You agree with everything that's just been said for the last 10 minutes. We now, live on air, guys, have a woman admitting that brunch is a holy war waged against lunch, men, all that is good and beautiful in the world. Yeah, it's basically like evil. We're talking like some Nazi shit. This is like some Hitler level shit. I bet Hitler would have fucking wanted brunch. Agree?
Disagree.
Agree. Yeah. She said this I agree with. Yeah. So have your own schedule. Have your own shit going on. You want to push women to have their own goals as well. If the opposite ever happens, will there ever be any women that are in it? There will be plenty, but they probably won't listen to this. Any women, if you're in a relationship and your man is just like a lazy piece of shit, first of all, like encourage him for a little bit. If he doesn't change, put a timeline on it. Maybe we can say this. This applies to both genders. Encourage the other person to build their own life, all that kind of stuff, but put some timeline on it. If they absolutely are resistant and you can't get them to change within like 6 months or a year or 6 months probably, if you can't get them to build their own life, if they don't seem to have any goals, then congratulations. You've gotten into a relationship with someone lazy and who doesn't want anything in life, and that's probably not the person for you, would be a nice way of saying it. Obviously, try, encourage them, all that sort of shit. But yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. We will finish up. I don't think there's anything else we need to add, is there? This was the first podcast you've come on in a long time. You dress like a fucking cat. You look like a fucking retard. I mean, you look like a beautiful retard, but like still, you look like a fucking cat. Why did you come on the air as a cat? Please explain the audience.
You told me to dress like a cat.
So that I could make you look silly. And guys, this is like what is trying to take over brunch. Cats. Like, you can't take this serious. This is how women dress at brunch, probably. If she had Lululemon pants on and a fucking chihuahua and she was sipping her little fucking like spirulina drink or her little lemon detox drink, or what do women even drink at brunch?
Coffee. You had 2 male clients who actually met together for the first time, and I'm pretty sure you said they went to brunch.
Who? Shout outs on the air. You can just like whisper it in my ear. Whisper it in my ear so the audience can't hear. Those are 2 of my favorite clients too. Is that true? Did they really?
That's what you told me.
They will be listening to this too. You two better know who you are too. That's fucked up. I'm going to end this right here. That's fucked up. Guys, if you want to hit me up for coaching, if you need help, if you want to build an awesome life, if you want to get some pussy, if you're in a relationship and any of this resonated with you and you're thinking like, shit, I think I'm pretty complacent, or I think I want to encourage my girl to be into self-improvement as well, hit me up. I'll leave links in the description below to all my coaching, all that good stuff. And now you got to do the outro. You don't know what the new outro is because you haven't come on my fucking podcast because you don't fucking love me. Anything you want to say to that?
I do love you very much.
Well, isn't that gay? That's gay as fuck. The red pill would say that's like literally gay. Like that's the most gayest thing ever. They'd be like, you love a woman. That's so homosexual. We're calling the red pill out a lot today, but like shout outs to anyone who's, do you know like half my audience comes from the red pill, and all I do every day is like just call them out on shit. It's like a love-hate relationship.
You do also say that a lot of the philosophies that you have gotten, like the masculine stoicism, build your own life type philosophies, do come from the red pill.
Oh, I'm so goddamn grateful to the red pill. It's like a weird love-hate relationship. It's like, it's not even love-hate. It's like half of the stuff I'm just like, yeah, you guys went way too far there. That's like not the real world. That's like, go have sex with 50 women and you'll quickly realize that's not the real world. And then the other half is like, holy fuck, thank God they told me this. Like, thank you, red pill, for telling me to go to the gym. Appreciate that. Like, that was really cool of you. Nice. Yeah. So anyway, after all that, if you any of this resonates with you, if you're struggling with any of this, links in the description below to coaching. The outro is, now go crush your goals. That's me smoking a blunt, because that's what people who crush goals do.
You don't smoke.
Smoke weed every day.